Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. It's going to be a doozy. We've just had a board retreat, lots of fun things talked about. And also, the countdown for Home Dad Con keeps getting shorter and shorter. So we actually were up in Milwaukee. So that was pretty cool. Did you actually get to go to the hotel and check it out, Danny?
Oh yeah.
I'm jealous. I didn't get to do that.
Yeah. You and Charlie were too slow, man. Like
Charlie just was
4 hours late.
He was too slow. I was there. I could have been up there, but I was waiting to
him
be
coming out
chauffeur.
of North Dakota, I think, was the problem with that
South
winter
Dakota.
storm.
South
Does
Dakota.
it matter? Does it matter? Really?
I'm
Does
just
it?
trying to look out for my brother.
If you were standing in one and then standing in the other, would you know the difference? No, you wouldn't. Have you been to the Dakotas? They're pretty.
I feel like one would offer me
simple.
meth before the other one would, and that would tell me which one I was in.
or the oil workers, because there's been a big boom.
Or that, yeah.
Years, so yeah, it could be that. And if Charlie's listening, I don't think he's going to get offended because he knows we're, his brothers. That's what brothers do. We pull your chain a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to the hotel and it was amazing. It was exactly, you always, getting into the hotel like that first day of the convention has always been for me that moment of where the heck is everything? What am I doing here? And even with a map, it takes me a full day before I'm really like, oh yeah, that's down on this floor, that's on that floor, this is over here. It was really good, I think, for all of us to see the space ahead of time, or most of us to see the space ahead of time. And we're having dinner Saturday night of the convention on the
in a spaceship. In a spaceship. It's a spaceship, right?
It basically is 360 degree glass view of the city and everything around it. You can see all the way to the lake, and it's just like amazing. It's a great view.
How many times are we going to hear "Beam me up, Scotty" when we get in the elevator to go up?
Well, the biggest thing for me is it's called the View, VUE, and every time I'm like, oh, this is a great view, and the lady's like, yeah, tish, So yeah, but it's amazing. It's really cool. The rooms are good. All of the videos and pictures that we saw of the rooms online matched very well. No surprises there really, because Hyatt's got a pretty good reputation for that, but it was good to see him in person.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't have your room yet, you need to do that.
I heard that there are like screens throughout the hotel that are going to actually have like the schedule up on it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Keith was telling me about that. I was like, that to me is awesome, because there's lots of times where you're just hanging out some spot and you're like, oh, I don't have my program, what's going on right now? And it's like you're gonna be able to find a screen really easily and see what's going on, which I think is cool.
And maybe most important for a few of our listeners or a few of our attendees is there's a Starbucks downstairs.
Yeah, I heard there's an in-house
right off the lobby.
Starbucks. Yeah.
You walk in that front door and you're like, oh, what's that smell? It's like right over in the corner, right? And it was, it's exactly what you'd expect out of a Starbucks, of course.
I got to ask, though, aside from Starbucks, for those of us who aren't huge Starbucks fans, is there like local roasters anywhere in that area too that you saw or heard about?
Yeah, I didn't look.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm a Maxwell House guy, man. I
guess I'll have to ask Matt Strain. I'm sure he's already done his due diligence in finding a place.
I will say the food, there's a lot of food like exactly what you would expect. There's a lot of brats in every direction, a lot of German food, very nice German restaurants, an entire store devoted to different types of cheese. That was very impressive. And you can get a little cheese head there. You can get a little refrigerator magnet grater,
oh my
stick
goodness.
it on your fridge. I don't think it works, but
did you guys go to a brat place I saw like pictures. Did you guys go to Brat Place for lunch? Yeah, I
The
thought so.
Brat House.
It looked like a complete sausage fest. That's why I was curious.
It was, yeah, you're right. All men, because it's just the board. We were one of the first ones in, but we weren't like the only ones that came in right as it opened. It opened up. They're pulling the sign out to put it on the sidewalk. We walk in, we sit down, and like 8 other people came in and sat at the bar and whatever. The beer, from what I understand, was very good. I don't know, but the brat sampler that I had was amazing. They had sauteed mushrooms and onions, and of course sauerkraut on there as well, and it was just amazing. Oh, and the roasted red peppers, and each one went like right with because it was 4 different sausages. Each one was right what you wanted. Brats were great.
I would say that for the meat lover out there, Milwaukee is going to be like the place for real. Like the food, like, well, I mean, we went to Lakefront on Saturday, and the food there was awesome. Matt and I both had the Brubano sandwich, was like their take on like a Cuban, and that thing was excellent.
With fried pickles.
With fried pickles on it. I had
the same thing. So,
oh, did you too? Okay,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, that was a delicious meal. And I'm definitely looking forward to actually going back to their place.
And what I loved, honestly, because you come to Wisconsin, you don't expect to be a lot of salad. There's not a lot of greens. It's just kind of the reality of it in many places.
That's what the cows eat to make cheese.
Right. Exactly. That's what my food eats, that kind of thing. And that's a lot of it, and that's fine. But in the where we're going to have Convention Eve, there are multiple little restaurants in that area, like we had last year in Phoenix and previously in Cincy too. And they had a sushi shop, which was amazing. And they had a place, and I think it was called the Greenhouse, which is just vegetarian.
Yeah.
Even the brat place had a vegetarian chili, and the taco place had a vegetarian burrito, I think, which isn't really hard, I think, to do because, burritos. But it was really impressive to see that much offering right.
They had a lot of great stuff for sure. So the one thing that I found, I don't know anybody else really found this, but they had a cooler over by the place, like it was like the restaurant right across from the main bar, and there was like water and some other things in there. But they had 16-ounce canned craft soda in there, and they had a root beer, and man, that thing was delicious. Like I think it was $5 for a can, but it was great nonetheless.
Worth every penny.
It was worth it. Yeah. I mean, I bought it on Friday night and I drank it during the meeting on Saturday, and it was quite tasty. So I will probably get me another one of those for sure when we go back for Convention Eve. The Convention Eve space is cool too. Like you could sort of see it through the window, even though the door was locked. It's kind of nice that we're going to have like this space sort of away from all of the other stuff going on out in the main room. And from what I understand, we also get access to the patio area outside of there as well. So that's going to be really nice. See that?
So
yeah, you can just barely see it through like the letters that are
still there. Building a lot of it. So and all that area is going to be practically brand new by the time the convention rolls around. So yeah. And they had DJ playing, which I thought was fantastic because it just kind of gives you something to listen to. The shuffleboard, which I thought was honestly hilarious. Yeah. Right. I'm like, oh, shuffleboard.
We're on a cruise ship.
Right. I think it was Sergio I was walking with. He's like, I've never played that. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't either. I think I saw it on a cruise ship once, but and then you had bag toss, of course. That was great. Really nice areas for the kids. Did you? Yeah, cornhole. Just sorry. I don't.
I know some people call it bags. Some people call it cornhole. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But where they have the kids areas, I don't know if you saw that.
A little bit. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Nice little spot if you were bringing your kids, which we're probably not. But also they had, I think, 3 or 4 Nintendos set up on very, very large screens.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Mario Kart playing and Smash Bros playing, and I'm just
that was back there in that. Yeah, that was back there in that spot. I saw just like families back there and little kids, and I was like, nope. I was like, I'm trying to not be near any of that to the day.
It was by Dairyland, which is where the ice cream and malts were, and the bakery, and I'm like, wow. This is marketing right here.
I never made it.
Can I have an ice cream? Yeah. Oh my God, stop.
I never made it back there.
Right there.
Yeah. Well, and they had
good stuff.
there was like a wine shop there too. I saw that. That was over in that area as
Mhm.
well. That was
I
funny.
wondered if that was a wine shop because I walked by there, but I didn't really see anybody working there or a sign up necessarily, and we
Oh
were moving
yeah.
too fast.
When
But
I
it looked like a
when
nice
I when
spot.
I went by there, it had like 6 to 8 people in there, and they were serving wine and having a good old time. So yeah, definitely there's a wine bar there as
Nice.
well. So yeah, like lots of just really cool stuff there. So I'm excited to have everybody come in and check that out. I see where conversations have already been started about Wednesday activities and Thursday
Hmm.
activities. And
I
I
think we
think,
need to announce the plans for the spot that we're going to that starts with this letter on Wednesday.
right.
Need to
Well,
do that
there's
very
also the
soon.
spot that I'm going to meet people at that starts with this letter on
Hmm.
Wednesday too. So let's do that
All the
real
listeners are like, "You guys are dorks. What are you doing?"
All right, so here's the deal. There is a group that is gonna converge and head up north of Milwaukee to go do a tour at Lambeau Field.
Hmm.
I think it's what, a couple hours north of isn't it a
Yeah, it's
couple
about
hours
2 hours
north? Yeah,
north,
about two
and
hours north of Milwaukee.
there's a
So there,
convenient brewery to stop at on the way home or way back to the hotel. Just saying.
yep. So yeah, so there's a group that's gonna go check out Lambeau Field. So that's gonna be pretty cool. And I think that's during the day, right?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
going to be almost all day,
Yeah.
because it's going to be at least 6 hours. It just would, 2 hours up and hang out for a couple hours and then 2 hours back.
Right.
So,
So I put that out there just because the thing that I'm looking at going to do is I'm looking to go to Wrigley Field because the Cubs are going to be playing the Pirates on Wednesday night. That game actually, they finally put a timeout for it. So that starts at 6:40. So that's why I was like, I don't know if anybody from the Lambeau, if they'd be able to pull double duty and make it down for Wrigley or not, but you never know. I'm thinking of guys like Marcel, who like probably would try to, knock both out.
hit both. Yeah.
Yeah. like
Yeah.
like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get both. Although if he comes in early enough, honestly, like he could go to the Tuesday night game. And then that way he doesn't have to miss out on Lambeau on Wednesday. So who knows? We'll see
Hmm.
what he does. But yeah, so Lambeau Field and Wrigley Field are on the docket for Wednesday. And then it sounds like there's also a group that's doing a brewery hop as well that day for anybody that's not wanting to
That's
go in either direction.
still forming up. I don't know for sure. I only saw it suggested. I don't know how many people have responded, but I will say you said brewery and you have
Yeah.
at least half the people to go to the convention, I would think. So
Right,
it's probably
right.
going to happen.
Well, regardless, at one point or another. But the thing with it is that honestly, if you haven't bought your ticket yet, you probably should, for the main fact being that you can get in these groups and hear what's going on and
Hmm.
be a voice and that kind of deal. If you're on the fence because of finances for coming, there is a scholarship, and I highly recommend that you reach out and there's a link actually that's been dropped in the closed group. I think it might have been posted in the public page as well. I'm not sure, but if it's something that if you'd like some help getting there, please don't hesitate to reach out, because we want to get as many guys as possible to the convention. And yeah, we pride
Hmm.
ourselves in making sure that we get as many guys to the convention as possible, as many dads as we can. So if that's you, reach out to me or email us at podcast@homedadcon, or sorry, at homedad.org. I can't even talk. But yeah, so that's their excitement that's going on. And then tonight we have a special guest coming on. Danny's been on it with guests. You've been just
Well,
bringing
this is
them
it.
in.
This is it. I don't have anything else scheduled. Just let
That's
you
okay.
know.
Well, that's
This is it.
okay
I'm
because
tapped.
both of us are going on vacation.
Hmm.
For a week, so there is going to be
Spring
no
break.
show. We get
Spring break.
1 week off. That's it. So spring break's coming. But
What are
yeah,
you
so
doing for spring break?
I'm going
Real
to
quick.
Clearwater, Florida for spring break. I'm excited about that because
Nice.
it'll be our family's first time flying together. So that's going to be cool.
And I am driving down to Atlanta by myself.
Road trip.
Oh yeah. Yep. Without the kids, they're on spring break, and Marnie's like, "Yeah, you need to go. I've got some business to do down there, and I'm going to take the opportunity to see everybody that I know or everybody that I
Yeah.
can. I don't have unlimited time, but yeah, I'm
Sounds
driving
good.
down
Gonna go see
St.
Brett.
Louis.
Gotta go see Brett
See
Landry.
Jeremy. I'm hoping.
Okay.
I haven't talked to him yet. But.
Good deal. All right. Well, we have a special guest coming on. We'll have them on here in just a moment. Give you no teasers other than that this time. So we'll be back with our special guest. Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Hey everybody, welcome back. Like we said, we have a special guest tonight, and we're very excited to talk with him. Danny, so why don't you introduce him? Because I feel like you know him better than I do. And
I only know him because I read his book.
Well, there you go.
I'm kind of cheating, but Jim Young, with multiple things on your LinkedIn and what that you're famous for and that you do. But the thing that I really was attracted to was the book that you've written, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. But it really kind of surprised me because the title of it is Expansive Intimacy, and okay, that I can understand that, but it didn't go the direction that I thought it did. It ended up there, which was another surprise. But the main part of it was talking about burnout. And I'd like it. I mean, you please to introduce yourself. You have so many things, like I said, so many accolades that we could talk about, but let you do your own introduction, at least on that part. And then I would love to talk about the book with you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. My name is Jim Young. And I think one of my favorite things that I have in my LinkedIn profile that's gotten more comments than any over the years is a phrase that I have on there that says, dadding my ass off. It's one of my favorite things. So I always love to introduce myself as a dad first. Perfect for this conversation, right? I'm also a coach. I'm a burnout survivor. I'm an improv comedian. I'm a facilitator. I'm an author, soon to be podcaster. I'll be launching a podcast on expansive intimacy next month in April. Yeah, and I'm excited to have a conversation about all these topics and how they intertwine, and maybe find some surprises in there as well.
Great. And we're very happy to hear you because of all of those things, especially dadding. And dadding obviously is probably for Brock and I the biggest parts of our lives. So how many kids do you have and how old are they?
I've got 3 kids. I've got a 20-year-old who's a sophomore, almost 20, sophomore at college. They're non-binary. I've got a son who's just turned 18. He's heading off to college in the fall. And then I've got a daughter who's a freshman in high school.
All right.
And I should say I'm a divorced dad, which is a qualifier that I think is relevant for many guys. So I have my kids half the time, and I like to think of I have my kids 100% of the time, half the time, because it's just me and them.
Yeah, I like it.
There are definitely dads that listen to us that are right there in that same part of their life as well. So yeah, I'm sure that they completely understand what you're saying in that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Now, we talk about burnout a lot with our members in the At Home Dad network, and the burnout that we get comes from really just the constancy, the relentlessness of being an at-home parent. You never leave work. And it's interesting to me, having had a job outside the home for so long and then coming into being an at-home parent, that burnout was even a thing that I would experience. I look at it and I think, oh, well, you're at home. You don't even have to get dressed. You don't have to, you have to leave the house, at least until the kids are like 4 or 5. You could really just insulate and play in the yard and you'd be fine. And when I think of burnout, I often think of, which I think was kind of your experience, people that are more in the corporate or the business world, where they have that just over competitive nature and that need to just, you must be number one, you must do the best of the best. So I'd like it if you'd tell us a little bit about your experience with burnout personally, and see where you came from to get to this point.
Yeah, as you note, Danny, a lot of my burnout came from my experience in the corporate world, and it was around expectations and trying to live up and trying to be this provider and achieve and climb the ladder and all those things. And in my book, I have a quibble with the World Health Organization's definition of burnout, which they adopted in 2019, even though it's been around for a lot longer than that. They describe it as a syndrome of unmanaged workplace stress. Mm-hmm. And that's where it breaks down a bit for me. And I get like why, kind of how they arrived there, but it's not just about workplace. Like, my burnout was about what was going on at work, but it was also a huge part because I wasn't able to be home with my kids as much. I was trying to fit my life around my work. And so I was burned out in that way. And then I also know stay-at-home parents, moms and dads, who've experienced burnout because the symptoms are exhaustion, but it's emotional exhaustion is the first symptom of burnout. It's cynicism, or, this kind of sense of like, is this ever going to end? Is it ever going to get better? Which, when you got little kids, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to end. Sometimes when you get teenagers, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to end.
Yep.
and then it's a lack of a sense of accomplishment. Like, I'm just not doing a good job here. And so those symptoms exist for stay-at-home parents. They exist for solo entrepreneurs. They exist for people in the corporate world. So, burnout is affecting lots of us. And mine was really this, kind of tangled version of it, where it was both personal and professional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from on that. And to be honest, like, I actually not even heard the word burnout until I went to a convention for dad influencers, and a guy that Danny and I both know pretty well, Greg Washington. He an at-home dad. He's one of the OGs, and he came up to me during the convention, gave me a big hug, and he was just like, I'm really concerned for you and all of the things that you do in the social media world, and that you're going to burn out before you actually hit the potential that I know that I see you have. And I was like, what is that? Like, I don't know what that word is. I was like, what is burnout? Like, what are you talking about? And he was very kind to basically walk me through what he saw me doing and explain to me the fact that I understand you have lots of passion and I understand you have this drive, but I also see that you have 2 kids and a very devoted wife, and you are highly involved in your family, and then also highly involved in trying to be like a dadvocate. And like, it's like burning the candle at both ends. And it's like, when you get to the middle, like, that's when it gets that's when you get snuffed out. And I was like, okay. And so ever since then, I've tried to be diligent about that, and I still get called out on it by Danny and and other people, because I tend to be very much a, yes, I got this. Oh yeah, I can do that. And I just fill my plate up more and more with stuff. And then I get somebody like Danny who's like, are you really sure you can do that? Like, he did that to me on Saturday at our board retreat, because we were talking about business cards, and I was telling them about how I could make them all digital business cards like in an afternoon.
I could do this in like
Signing
an
up
afternoon.
for more,
like,
right?
Man, are you sure? Because you have this much.
He's sitting
going.
right beside me and he's like, "Are you sure you can do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do it." Actually, I was
Uh-huh.
like, "I can do it while I'm sitting right here." And I did. I pulled it together in like 10 minutes. It wasn't anything because I had a template already set up
He,
for it.
he did it to prove me wrong. He
I
just
kind of did. I kind of
yeah.
did. Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
this, Danny. How's your card? You want to get your card now?
But still though, I completely I get exactly what you're saying, and and I've experienced it. So I from the standpoint of being a dad who's trying to do all these things. So, but at the same time, it is something that sometimes is not understood that that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're pushing ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think the subtitle of the book is, so it's Expansive Intimacy, How Tough Guys Defeat Burnout. And tough guys is in quotes. It's this thing like we gotta be a tough guy, right? We can take anything. We can just keep adding to the list. And like I got it, I can handle it.
Hmm.
And
Where have I
yeah.
heard that before? Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just deep social conditioning too. Part of the research that I looked at was these unspoken rules for manhood, and I'm sure they're going to ring true for you. I mean, I think we're probably all, roughly the same age, who grew up in this society at the same time, and it's men are in control. They need to be strong and
Mm-hmm.
successful. They can't reveal their emotions to anybody else. They can't ask for help. They just need to man up.
Or talk about if they're injured.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we need business cards. I got it. I can handle it. I can do more. I can take on whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a
No,
big part
definitely.
of burnout too, beyond just doing too much, and you brought it up earlier, is that feeling that you're not doing enough or you're not doing
Yeah.
well enough. And I've never felt that feeling more than as a father. That did I do what I needed to do today for my kids? Did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Was this the right way to handle this issue or this problem? Or did I teach them well enough how to take care of themselves if this happens or that happens? I mean, it's, a lot of the stuff, part of the job is very simple. Here's how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now you can make your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I don't have to, kind of things. I mean, long term. But the realization that hits me, at least, and I think with most fathers and most parents, is you're looking at this tiny little life and suddenly you're completely responsible for it. And you realize about maybe 3-4 years in, I think we all realize that every single thing we do, every single thing we say, your child will remember forever. And you have this
They
moment
are
of, wow,
watching.
yeah, right. And what can I say? What can I do? So I think that really rolls into it too, with a lot of what we do, and adding into the idea, well, I have to be able to do everything. I have to be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. I have to win,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah,
see
because
it happen.
we're the most challenging part of parenting is that social and emotional development. It's like teaching a kid how to tie their shoes or make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like we can all pretty much handle that, but it's like when they get hurt, when they get afraid, when they're getting into social situations and don't know what to do, when they're having anxiety, like how do we show up there? And how do we learn that, right? Like we weren't taught that probably
Right.
growing up, right? We certainly didn't see it modeled by our parents. If my dad's a boomer, like none of that was available to me growing up. So it's all been making it up on the fly, looking at other resources around me. Thankfully, having a really great network of other dads who are kind of doing it at the same time, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can support each other. And that really gets at one of the core principles of expansive intimacy is like availing ourselves of all these deep, intimate bonds across every area of our life so that we don't burn out because we have resources when we need to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
great. That is great. So on to the like, we kind of have a definition of what burnout is, and I think any parent hearing this will go, yeah, I feel that. It's just you eventually get it, or you definitely get it. But there's actually a lot of research that's been done, and you brought it out in your book. Several doctors that you named in your book that have done a lot of work on burnout, both in defining it and then studying exactly how it happens and how we get to this point. And so from that point where we know what it is and know it is actually a defined thing, where do we go? What do we do?
Yeah. For me, one of the first things that I needed to do was to start to trace back what were my characteristics? What were my traits that became states? So there are, in a workplace setting, there are some very well studied and measured aspects of what creates burnout at an organizational level. It's workload, the amount of control we have over the work that we're doing, the amount of reward that we're receiving, the sense of community we have, whether there's a sense of fairness within our workplace, and do we share a set of common values with the, you know, the workplace, the organization that we're in. We can apply that at home as well, right? Mm-hmm. So starting to see, like, where is the mismatch for me? Do I simply have too much work? And that's often what we go to in default. But there's actually a recent book out by Christina Maslach, who's one of the preeminent researchers in burnout. She's been studying it for 35 years and is kind of the, one of the very first people who put a stake in the ground about it. We can have high workload, but if we have a high sense of control over the work that we're doing, it's not as harmful. If I have a sense that I have autonomy, I can make decisions, I have the resources that I need to do a high volume of work, then it's going to buffer me against burnout. I think looking at those factors on the sort of the workplace side of it, whether your workplace is a home where you're raising kids or whether you're in an office setting or something else, then it's also understanding on the personal side, like, what are my markers that could be risk factors for me? So low sense of self-worth is a burnout risk factor, as is perfectionism, raising my hand for that, as is people pleasing, raising my hand for that.
Yes.
Not having good coping mechanisms for dealing with stress. So we have these personal factors as well that we have to start to look at. And then for me, burnout was getting into it was thousands of decisions over a period of years to get into it. I didn't see it coming. It's kind of like the frog in the pot of boiling water analogy, right? All of a sudden I realized, I'm like, oh, I'm burned out. And then coming back out of it was slow as well. It was, if I was going in 1% at a time, I had to go out 1% at a time, sometimes 0.5% at a time. Mm-hmm. And it was just starting to identify, okay, what are some of the things that I can start to do to address, like, okay, if my coping skills aren't what they should be, or my perfectionism keeps getting me into, I've got to do more, starting to decode that. And in my case, I used a range of strategies. I took a big break from work. One of them was kind of had to do it, left for mental health leave for a month, unpaid. And then later on, I had a different variation of that was more controlled. But I did therapy work. I did some 12-step recovery work because I grew up in alcoholic families. And I did some work with Al-Anon to kind of reset some of those people-pleasing and perfectionist behaviors. There's a lot of different ways we can do it. And what I would love to be able to say is, like, here's the answer, right? Here's the solution to burnout, but there isn't one, because burnout's not a problem. It's a dilemma. It requires a set of strategies, not a solution. If we had a solution for burnout, we wouldn't see 40-50% of people in surveys showing up as burned out.
Yeah.
So it's really looking at those multiple risk factors and then saying, okay, what's going on for me? What can I start to do to start claiming back some agency for myself and serenity for myself?
Yeah. I've been in that place recently with taking on a full-time job. That whole transition of, I'm not just the stay-at-home dad anymore. Like, I'm a working dad who then comes home and also has to put on the other hat. And I know that the conversation with me and my wife has been a lot of like, hey, like, I'm just as tired as you. I've done laundry the past like 4 times in a row. Is it possible for you to, like, take on a load, that kind of deal? And we've had some great conversations with it. And for her, it's like the coming to the realization of, like, oh crap, like, yeah, duh, like, I can't expect you to do the same workload at home as you were doing prior to having your job. Like, we've got to split things up and balance it back out again, that kind of deal. And That's, after 6 years of me being in this role of like, I got the house, it's now like, we got the house. And, there are times that I have to remember to be, I need to show grace, but at the same time, be vocal, towards the situations. Cause like there are just times here in the past month that I'm like, I am exhausted and like, I don't want to feel this way. Like I shouldn't, it's like, there's a way to get out of this. I just need to use my words. And, so that's been a big, step for me to just say those kind of like, instead of the like, I got it, I'm like, I need you to get it. Like, can you get this kind of deal? And that's been a big moving point for me and my wife, and just the way that we're kind of rebalancing our family after 6 years of having a different setup.
Yeah, you've run that too.
Complex picture.
Yeah, it really is too. And part of it, and you actually talked about this in your book, and I was kind of actually surprised to see it. Again, didn't know exactly what I was getting into. And you did use the phrases like man up and tough guys and such. And I'm like, well, where are we going with this? But you actually have a section on those changing gender roles, which Brock and I are big examples of, the non-stereotypical gender roles, and how challenging that is, and the reasons that it's so challenging, and how it can obviously lead us into more issues. The quote that I absolutely loved this one, because I feel this one. It's you said the complex, evolving, and ultimately more balanced set of roles that men are playing between work and home requires a skill set that exposes a gap for many men. Just our inability. We've never been shown how to do this. We never saw anyone do this. And all of that, what we call cognitive labor of being a parent, the scheduling and the getting the kids supplies and getting all the things done, has always been the motherly role for many of us.
Yeah. But, and it's a lot of work.
It really is.
Yeah,
and that's without that's just the logistical side of it, right? Like keeping track of like, okay, there's an upcoming school vacation week, or there's doctor's appointments to be made, and things that have been so invisible for men. But that's not even getting to the, your kid comes home from school and they're really upset because somebody said something mean to them on the playground, and being there for them to be their emotional support, right? That emotional labor, and it's hard for anybody, I'm sure. It's not like women got this playbook probably growing up.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe had a little bit more of that expectation, a little modeling of being a nurturer. And yet it's so rewarding, right? You guys know this just as well as I do. Like when you get to be that resource for your kid, and you can help them feel safe and secure again, and help them build more belief in themselves and new skills and resilience, it's just wonderful. But it's this kind of daunting gap when we first look at it, and like, I have no idea, what do I do here?
I will say that the one thing though out of that I'm very happy and excited about is the fact that my kids are seeing a different version of a dad at home than even most of us grew up with, and that it doesn't have to be a weird thing for dad to be home with the kids. And like even my son on many occasion, he's 10 now, will say from time to time, like, I want to be a stay-at-home dad when I get older. And I just love it, because he sees the joy that I have in being home with them. And not every day is great. but still, like, not every day is great in any kind of job. So just the fact that he gets to see that, and my daughter gets to see a dad at home like that, if she whoever she marries, like that would be something that, okay, it's not odd if one of the others at home, like that's, we can make this work, and it's got balance, and it doesn't have to be something that's out of the ordinary. It's just, this is what works for our family, and having that motto, those are, I don't know, it's interesting. Like coming into being a stay-at-home dad, not having that as like the mindset, all I had really was like, I want my kids to know what a good dad is, and that I want them to marry people that love them and that kind of stuff. But just the idea of like, oh yeah, like I actually can be like a role model for them in a fashion of showing good parenting.
Yeah, I never saw a stay-at-home dad as one of the options at the career fair when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Nope.
No,
Yeah, I when
yeah.
my wife, we decided we were going to have a parent stay home, and I was so happy. And we were sitting out on the front porch, and we only had two kids at the time, and all that. And we were taking a moment after they'd all gone to sleep to talk about where we were going and how many kids we wanted to have, and we decided, yeah, we want somebody to be at home, so that it's us taking care of them. And so when they get off the bus, the lights are on, and there's food cooking and music playing and all those things that go along with that. And I said, my love, I am just so touched that you would sacrifice your career for our family. And she slides my scotch to me and she says, not me. I'm like, whoa. Hang on now. No. Men don't do this. I don't know if you were aware, and again, the generation, I mean, I am Gen X, but I'm old Gen X, right? And it's really been an eye-opening experience. Now I've said this before, this is the perfect job for me. Being a dad and being a full-time dad and handling all the stuff that goes with it has been, I mean, it couldn't have been a better fit. And my wife, while a wonderful mother, is absolutely better on the business and finance and budget end of things. And so for our family, I mean, if it had been the other way around, I'm sure she could have handled this job, but we'd have been bankrupt in like a month or a year. I don't know. And we would definitely never have gotten out of Georgia. So, but it's really interesting that when we choose that and how it changes us, and the things we have to do for our kids, and definitely how easy it is to burn out. Now, the book is Expansive Intimacy, and I'd like to see if you could, to kind of draw the line between this feeling that a lot of us have and how intimacy is going to affect that. Because what intimacy is to a lot of people, of course, and you say this in your book, that it is not, let me see if I can say it right. Intimacy isn't sex. Right. So,
and
so
it
we
is.
understand. So, but if we could get you to kind of work through that a little bit, because I think it's a really good explanation that would help us out.
Yeah. Intimacy gets channeled into this really narrow definition in our culture, and it's wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Did you get intimate? Right.
Yeah.
And intimacy is sex, right? Sexual intimacy is one of the most delicious flavors of intimacy. And it's special. It has qualities that no other form has. And there are several other forms of intimacy. There's emotional intimacy. And there's a great story in chapter 8 about this couple that I interviewed who had almost lost their marriage multiple times. And what they ended up realizing through a video series that I had posted a couple of years ago, that they didn't have any emotional intimacy in their relationship, and they never had. They'd never really gotten into that deep inner world with each other in ways that helped them see what their experiences of the world were. And when they clicked that into place, they're just in such a fantastic place now, right? So there's a range. So there's emotional intimacy, there's physical intimacy, which is not the same as sexual intimacy. Having your kids sit in your lap, read a book, right? How much more intimate does it get than that, right? That's an amazing form of physical intimacy. There's intellectual intimacy. We're kind of having that right now. Like, we're getting to know each other, creating a little bit of a connection as we're talking from our heads. There's spiritual intimacy. For me, I do improv comedy, and this coming Saturday, I'll be on stage. There'll be a theater full, about 60 people, me and my teammates up there. We've all come to this one place with one purpose in mind, which is to laugh, to raise our spirits. It's a spiritual experience, right? So it doesn't have to be a church or a synagogue or a mosque. How do we find spirit, and how do we share that with other people? So we have this rich range of intimacies that we can explore with people. And because of that, we can explore intimacy with everybody, with a kid, with friends, with a group of strangers, with our coworkers. And when we can do that, we can now reveal our real selves in a lot of different ways, including like this feels like too much right now. Could you just take on a load of laundry? Right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Because I'm feeling overwhelmed. And we have this reciprocal way of being able to flow back and forth with each other because we've opened up intimacy.
Yeah.
That's really the gist of expansive intimacy. And the last thing I'll say on it is that, I was saying before, burnout is a dilemma, not a problem. It's this like multi-headed monster.
Mm-hmm.
And we need a set of strategies. Well, expansive intimacy is a set of strategies, because I can go and I can talk to my men's group on Mondays and get a whole different set of needs met than I get when I'm with my partner, or when I'm having a conversation with my kid at college, or when I'm talking to my ex-wife. Right? We can meet the challenge of burnout and all of its tentacles with something like intimacy if we use it expansively.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, I want to segue a little bit because you talked about your child being in your lap and you're reading to him. Because I just want to say before I say this, I may cry. I cried when I read it, and I may cry again. But you told Nico's story, and I'd like you to tell that. I mean, I could, but it's your story to tell, obviously, because you experienced about his dad and that. What happened in that situation.
Yeah, my friend Nico is one of the deepest souls that I've ever met, and he told me this story. I was interviewing him for the book, and he was sharing with me a big life moment that he was having. He had reached an apex in a career, and he felt like it was time to make this big change, and he was really unsettled and uncertain. And he called up his dad to say, "Hey, I think I'm going to change this job. I'm going to move across country back to Canada." And his dad says, "Hold on, I'm going to come and visit you." And his dad came and flew out, and they're talking over a period of days. And this one night after an event, they came back to their house, and his dad's sitting on the couch and Nico's sitting in the chair, and his wife's across from him. And he just gets this urge. And Nico is, I think, in his 30s in this story. And he gets this urge to say, like, I just don't want to be the one who has to make all the decisions. Like, this was the pressure he was feeling, was I have to figure it out. And I just want to be a boy again, was the sensation that he had in that moment. And what he did was he got up silently, went over to the couch, and laid his head down on his dad's lap. And all his dad did was just stroke his head and just let him be. And tears were flowing. It's just such a powerful story that shows that we can let down our guard as men, and especially we can do it with other men. We can do it with our dads. We can do it with our buddies. Finding those safe places to do it has this really profound power. And it's not something that we talk about enough. How can we support each other as men in ways that are intimate?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story.
Beautiful story. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, just the thought. And I lost my father recently, and while I was reading it and just thinking about my dad and I didn't have that kind of relationship. We never did, but I know I've got that relationship with my kids. And that's really, I think, as fathers, as parents, what we aspire to is to be better than our parents and our children to be better than us. And the ability to have that intimacy and to use the word without it making you think of like you said, getting intimate and all of the naughty thoughts that might come with it. The reality of what it is just having really no barriers between you and this other person. And with your children, why would you have barriers like that? Why would you hold your child at arm's length and say, no, you don't need those emotions. I don't need to hear that. And you don't need to do it, and all of you need to be stronger, rub some dirt in it or whatever it might be. But the reality of it is that as an adult still, we need that contact. We need that community. We need that, the expansive intimacy, as the name of your book is.
So, the other part of that story with Nico is, I think I start off the story by saying that sometimes we have to go first. And Nico went first, right? He made the move to say, I want intimacy here. He didn't even have to use words, which was beautiful, and just the power of it. but I think that's it. Like the last chapter of the book talks about, yeah, so how do we do this? And it's simply take a risk. If I had to boil it down to 3 words, take a risk. Get out there and say to the person that you want to say it to, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I want, here's what I would like for us to be exchanging. Because when we do that, people are waiting for it. A lot of times we all are wired for connection. We all have that same need. We're not always all ready at the same time. When somebody goes first, it creates the momentum and it says, okay, here we go. Even if it doesn't happen in that very moment, at least now that person understands the intention. It may happen later. But it's, how do we take that risk to put ourselves out there to say, I want something deeper. I want some more meaning.
Yeah. And to be able to say it to your friends, especially, as men, to say it to I mean, Brock and I talk about it all the time, that we really feel like every man needs a men's group and a mentor. And the mentor side of it is a lot of times someone that's your own age or even younger, someone that's in that situation that you can let your guard down, that you can be vulnerable or even just silly, or just a little weird. And they're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm completely okay with this, because they know that that's reciprocal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I love that. Every guy needs a men's group and a mentor. And it's such a great model, right? I have both of those things in my life, and I've had them for years. And it's in such stark contrast to the isolated experience that I had of my burnout years and leading up to it.
Yeah. I mean, you got so many men out there that are very much like a lone wolf type situation. We've talked about that in the past too. And pushing people to find mentors, find a common community group that they can get involved in is just, it's so important, because we're not meant to go, live this life as, by ourselves. Like that's not, that's just not it.
Every lone wolf dies.
Well, exactly.
I mean, they're a pack hunter. They need the other members of the pack to do the things they do to survive.
Right.
One wolf is not going to take down a moose, but a pack, sure.
Right.
It reminds me of the African proverb as well. I think it's an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Nice.
I think we're in it for the long haul, right?
Nice.
So yes. How do we do that? We need togetherness.
Definitely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something that Danny sent me in this email, which basically is his notes of reading the book. One of the things that really sort of stuck out and hit me was that he put in here the activities that used to fuel their liveliness have been relegated to faded memories. And I know that there are times where I think about like some of the things that I used to do before I was married, before I was a dad, just all these different things. And sometimes I'm like, I wrestle with like, how should I feel about that? What should I do? What should I do about that? I know that in a lot of occasions, it's as simple as just telling my wife like, hey, like, I really want to go do this. And she'll grant it. But at the same time, like, there's a big part of me that has this like feeling of like guilt for asking it. Like, hey, like, I really want to go go on a bike ride. Like I used to do long distance riding. It's like, but I know it takes a lot of time, Sure. So it's like, hey, I want to get out of the house for 4 hours, just go ride my bike or something like that. Or hey, I really want to go hang out in the woods with a buddy of mine who's big into hunting and hone in on my like bow skills or something along those lines. But again, like, there's a guilt to it. And I say all this with the fact that she's just off to my right here. I don't know if she's actually listening or not, because she also does. She's listening, yeah. But but it's all good. But at the same time too, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, to me, this hits really close to home, because that is the case. And I know that's the case for a lot of guys. A lot of the dads in our groups constantly are talking about the fact that, like, I used to do this, I used to do that. I don't feel like I can ask my partner to like give me the time to go and and do these things. And the one thing that Danny and I have always said too is that you have to be vocal. You have to be willing to step out there and say that and make it known that you need these things. Like these are important to your livelihood and to your not getting burnt out on everything else going on. But I was curious, like that statement itself, how did that affect you that got brought into the book?
Yeah, for me, Danny, you were saying how when it was time to decide which parent was going to stay home with the kids, I had that same moment. But we just fell like right into the traditional pattern of she's going to stay at home, I'm going to go off to work. And some of that was based on where we were career wise and earning potential. But really, if we had looked at skill set, I wanted to be there probably at least as much, if not more than her. And I really enjoyed young kids where it was a little challenging for her. She loves them, amazingly, but early childhood was tough for her as a mom. Yeah. And so it's kind of a frame for that. So I worked, and then I came home and I was like, I got to be with my kids. And so all the things that I used to do, skiing, playing in a rock band, playing basketball, even just getting out with my buddies for a beer every once in a while, that stuff started to fade away. And eventually it was just so out of reach. And I think what that did is it confined me into this constricted version of myself that was less attractive, less energetic, resentful, not very pretty seen. And knowing what I know now, what I would have liked to have done differently would be to set out some agreements of how do we, as a couple and as a family, honor all the different needs that we have. And it's not going to look exactly like we want it to. I'm not going to get to play every Thursday night with my buddies in a garage band like I used to, but can I get together once a month or every couple months on a Saturday for a few hours? How do we factor that into the mix along with the things that she wants to do and along with the time that we want to have with kids and one-on-one or with everybody? And and I think just setting agreements, whether it's as a couple or as a family, and they might be both of those, is a skill set that I've learned over the years. My new life partner is a couples counselor. It's really wonderful to be in a relationship with somebody who's got that experience. And as a coach who coaches men around things that touch on things like intimacy, I've just really had to learn there's a lot of other tools out there that I didn't know existed, that had I known them, I think I could have prevented burnout from being an issue. I might still be in my first marriage had I had some of that awareness. And our needs are important. We have to get recharged because we're going to come back and do great work with our kids, with our professional jobs. We need to fill the cup, and that might be getting out into the woods or taking a long bike ride or playing in a rock band or whatever it is that lights you up.
Self-care is best care.
Yeah, we just become more interesting and more attractive and more energetic people when we feed ourselves that way.
And I think for me, like one thing that is helping me kind of fill my cup is the work that I got involved in with being able to get hired in at the brewery that I work at, because I enjoy being around lively people and setting up events and stuff, and being able to kind of just control all of that. And it's taking a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the past few years being a part of this organization and being able to turn it into a job that I truly enjoy. Like I'm not breaking my back like I used to in my previous jobs. But I really am getting to show off skills and stuff like that. And so I'm sure at some point, and I keep mindful of the fact I'm like, at some point there's going to be something that's going to cause to show some burnout in some way. And it's like, okay, what do I got to do in that situation? So I'm definitely trying to plan ahead for it. But at the same time too, just making sure to take breaks and not get too overly involved in different ways and just that kind of thing. And I think that's
overextended.
Yeah. Don't overextend. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So, one of those things for me to help with that though was when I was being interviewed for that job, they were like, what do you need for this job? And I was like, I need a business cell phone and I need a business laptop. I was like, because I do a lot of stuff on my phone and on my laptop, and I need a disconnect. Like I can't have it all on the same one because I'll feel like I've never had the ability to unplug from it. And so they were really good about it. Like they actually got me those things, and it's really, I feel like, helped a lot because I can set them off to the side and not even worry about them. And it's like, all right, I'm home, I got other things to do, I can set it down, leave it, and concentrate on the things that I need to do, and not be like, oh, if I don't see this email or this whatever, like, oh, the world will end. And it's like, nope, but there's another day tomorrow type of thing.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, Danny.
I have to say,
Brock, I want to underscore something because like that story, I was given like the academic breakdown of burnout factors in the workplace. And you just in that story touched on a bunch of them. You talked about keeping an eye on your workload, right? That's one of the factors. You talked about like you asked for control. I need to have separate devices. I need to have some autonomy where I can like firewall off that workload from my home. You talked about there's this great group of people that you get to work with. So you have community there. And it sounds like you're really honoring some values of yours that your employer is also recognizing. So that's like 4 out of those 6 that you named in that little story, right? So just to bring it home into like every day is like, we know what it feels like to be in a sustainable work setting. We also know what it feels like to be in one that's not sustainable. Starting to look at those factors and just start to tag them for yourself of like, all right, so what is it about my workload? Do I have enough control? Am I getting enough reward? And reward isn't just money. It's also like the praise and recognition that we crave. Going through those factors and seeing like, all right, how's this going for me? Where can I start to make adjustments along with my colleagues, my employer as needed? Because it shows up in everyday stories. It's
Right.
how do we then dissect it and say, how do I make it better?
Well, and I also too, like when I'm at work, like it's not even so much all like, oh, what do I got to do to make my self feel better, but also like I work with a lot of people because I'm an event coordinator. So like I want to make sure that the staff that I'm working with, that they feel appreciated. Like I want to make sure that they feel heard, and that they don't see me as this overlord, but as somebody who is looking out for their best, and working together to make our team the best in that kind of way. And so that's the other thing for me that I get out of it is like, if I have employees, or like they're not even my employees, honestly, like they're just my coworkers, but it's like if my coworkers are happy and like enjoying coming into work, and they like talking to me and just being around me, like that's a big plus for me going to work.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's great.
I could get all geeky on some corporate stuff about management practices that prevent burnout, because that's in there too. But it's like, are we if we have a role where we have a higher level of responsibility, and even in a moment, are we creating a place to make people feel that like they're seen and that they're valued? That's one of the best things that buffers that feeling of burnout, is when we have people who are taking care of us at work.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's fantastic. Jim, I got to tell you, I really hope that like everybody in our network gets your book. It's really just hits home for me in so many ways about the situation that we're in. And again, the people that I've talked to in a lot of different avenues and venues that are at-home parents, and never would have thought burnout was the word that I needed to be using, honestly, but it really is. And it has been ever since I read your book. So, so before because we're about out of time, tell us where we can get in touch with you and your website, and then where we can get the book.
Yeah, the website is the best place for all of those things. It's thecenteredcoach.com, and you can find links for the book. My LinkedIn profile is on there. If you look up the Centered Coach on LinkedIn, you'll also find me there. Those are kind of the 2 places I hang out digitally, is website and LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks for the conversation. It's great to talk to some other dads who are out there, really, trying to do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. And until next time, everybody have a great week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.